SR1 Cup is our radical feeder series for our motorsport ladder. It's the grassroots for us. It's where the drivers first come in and get to experience prototype racing. The guys are absolutely novice racers with no more than 3 years of racing experience, which gives a real even playing field. It's really a friendly championship that guys with no experience can come into and enjoy close wheel-to-wheel racing with other peers.
The passion of racing was really in me. The passion of racing runs through my whole family, and early on, I'm 28, I decided I wanted to race, and SR1 was a good way to do that. It's a great beginner's car because it won't snap on you. You can really control it. You feel it sliding under you. But when you get into the fast curves, it's already pretty impressive. It's a real race car. It goes very quick. It's as quick as any GT car you might find on some of these tracks, and the GP circuit, which is fast, is really an awesome place to race in the UK.
I've always wanted to do a bit of racing, but never found a way into it. I thought it was just for the elite. And I read about SR1 a few years ago. I think Chris Hoy did it in year one. That brought it to my attention. So I managed to buy a car beginning of this calendar year. Took it out for a couple of days in the ice, and then this weekend is literally my first ever time doing anything that matters in a race car. So first ever time that I've done qualifying was yesterday, and first race today. So my aspiration is get round, get some signatures. I think I'm a bit off the pace, but do you know what? That's the best thing about Radical SR1. I've met the guys. We had dinner yesterday. Some of them know exactly what they're doing. Others, like me, don't. But you're all in it together. Good bit of fun.
They had a qualifying session yesterday, but we didn't see them race at all yesterday, so they've got a couple of races to look forward to today, which actually kicks off their 2017 season. The grid then for this one, car number 3, which is Jerome de Sadlier, sits there on pole position, and alongside him is car number 12, which is Rob Ellis. Row 2 of the grid is 88, Richard Baxter, returning to this championship, and number 56, which is Rob Courtnage. The third row of the grid, number 10, David Thompson, and 51, Andrew Ritchie. Row 4 is number 48, Andy Chittenden, and number 22, the confirmation of the number for James Pinkerton. Row 5 of the grid is number 95, David Tagg, and 5, which is Peter Devlin, and on his own on the 6th row of the grid, car number 71, Nigel Payne. And as the red lights come on, lights go out. Now it is a good start from the outside of the front row of the grid. Jerome de Sadlier is going nowhere when the lights go out. The pole sitter has stalled and has car number 71, Nigel Payne, at the tail end of the field. So we've got 2 cars going nowhere at this stage, but through into the lead of the race is, I think it was Rob Ellis that had taken up the lead of the race. Only now, has he got going yet?
No, not yet. Oh,
there we
now
go.
he has.
Jerome de Sadlier gets going just as the marshals arrive. So the pole sitter has got work to do in this one. It is going to be Rob Ellis that leads the race at this stage. Richard Baxter is there in 2nd position, and car number 56, which is Rob Courtnage, completes the top 3. But for Jerome de Sadlier, the lights went out and he just didn't go anywhere. I think we might have had a change for 3rd position because Rob Courtnage was under pressure from, I think, what must have been either Andrew Ritchie or Andy Chittenden heading in towards Hawthorns. Whatever it was, there was a change in the order. Whether it's going to be hung on to for the remainder of the lap, we shall wait and see, because they are only now just reappearing into sight on the exit of Sheen Curve. So here they come, the top 3 just getting away a shade. Rob Ellis looking to try and build an advantage in the early stages of this one if he can. He's one of a few drivers that has got experience on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit as they head on to the brakes and turn their way through clearways for the first time. Lap number 1 about to be completed. It is Rob Ellis that leads the race. It is Richard Baxter in 2nd position, and it's Andy Chittenden, I think, that's up into 3rd place now. Indeed it is, yeah, number 48, Andy Chittenden comes through in 4th place. Down to 5th goes what will be David Thompson. Rob Courtnage is, down to 4th goes David Thompson. Rob Courtnage is there in 5th place, and completing the top 6 is going to be Andrew Ritchie. What of our pole sitter, Jerome de Sadlier? Well, he is now in 10th position, 7.6 seconds off the next car, so that's the gap to watch out for.
It's going to be a great fight, and of course that number 48 car, Andy Chittenden, was one that brought out, I'm trying to remember now, was it a red flag? I think it was, wasn't it? That he lost it into the gravel at the bottom of Paddock Hill Bend. And although they managed to pull it out...
That's Andrew Ritchie, wasn't it, that went into the gravel?
Oh, was it?
Yeah, you got a choice of two. You picked the right one.
Yeah. And actually, that means that the 48 car came into the pits at the same time, because I had to say that it was one of those two, and both of them hit various issues. So he came into the pits. So I still don't think he got the full run on qualifying. Qualified down in 7th position, and he sat there up in 2nd. And trying to see if we can close in on Baxter and Ellis.
Yeah, well, Ellis, who leads the race, Rob Ellis, Richard Baxter and Andy Chittenden all have experience on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, and they are inside the top 3 at this stage. So Rob Ellis leading by over a second on completion of the first lap of the race, a 20-minute race for which there are still 17 minutes remaining. About to come through, thank you very much, and very shortly conclude lap number 2. So here they come onto the brakes, lead 3 having broken away from the 4th place car of David Thompson. And as they come through and over the start-finish line, it's still Rob Ellis that leads. It's still Richard Baxter in 2nd place. The white car with the red flashes will tell you it's Andy Chittenden who's there in 3rd position. So up towards the braking area for the right-hander at Paddock Hill Bend now go. It might be the bottom rung of the Radical Motorsport ladder, but it provides some very, very good value racing, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and as we've seen from so many people, is that you need to get as much practice time in these cars to really understand how hard you can push them and where you are able to take these cars a lot quicker through the corners with the downforce than you may be being used to if you've been into some driving something without this level of downforce. And so it is a great opportunity to get out. Oh, we got a spinner down at the bottom of Paddock Hill Bend. I think that may have been 95, is it, David Tagg? Last fastest lap of the race so far was done by the number 48 car of Andy Chittenden, sat there in 3rd. You said he looked racy trying to chase the guys in front of him.
I think of all of the drivers, he's probably got more experience on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit than anybody, because some of these drivers have previously raced in Radical SR1s on the Grand Prix circuit, but Andy Chittenden also raced in the Radical Challenge Championship last year as well, which took part on the Grand Prix circuit. So through they come. If anything though, Richard Baxter in 2nd place is looking closer now to race leader Rob Ellis. So the gaps between 1st and 2nd comes down to just 0.6 of a second that time through. As for our charging car that was the pole sitter of Jerome de Sadlier, well, he is already now up into 8th position. He was 10th a lap or so ago, but he's now up into 8th position and has just posted the fastest lap of the race so far, 1 minute 36.910 for the number 3 car that sat on pole, but when the lights went out, went nowhere.
And that was that's basically a second quicker than what was the fastest lap of the race before that. The 4th place car, number 56 of Rob Courtnage, he's actually running faster than all of the cars around him, so he could start reeling in that 3-way battle between Ellis, Baxter and Chittenden at the front. He's got a lot of work to do to get on board with them, but he is now lapping a second quicker than that last time round. Yeah,
you can certainly see as they head up towards Stirling, so the gap is closing. Yeah, the amount of daylight between the car in 3rd, Andy Chittenden, and the 4th place car of Rob Courtnage is coming down all of the time. So here comes over the start-finish line any second now our race leaders. So through they go over the start-finish line. 'Twas ever still Rob Ellis leading the race from number 88 Richard Baxter, then number 48 Andy Chittenden. But let's have a quick look. Here is Rob Courtnage, and that time through he is 2.5 seconds quicker than the next car ahead. So he is the quickest car out there at the moment, other than the pole sitting car of Jerome de Sadlier, who is still trying to get himself inside the top 6 at the moment. The number 3 car residing in 7th place, but I would have thought by the end of this lap Andrew Ritchie will be firmly within the crosshair.
We've got a purple sector 1, that's worrying, through a yellow flag, but hey-ho, by Pinkerton now, who sat there in 5th. So it looks like the 4th and 5th cars of Courtnage and Pinkerton are starting to get a little bit more comfortable as they're running and seeing if they can reel in those front 3.
Yep, so see whether he might be able to reel them in. Rob Ellis still leading. We are almost at the halfway point of this race now. The race leader is on lap number 6, car number 12, leading by 1.157 seconds from number 88 Richard Baxter. So that's the largest advantage that Rob Ellis has had at any point throughout the course of this race, but certainly looks as though now traffic is potentially coming into play, because they're going to catch and have to work their way through and past the number 95 car of David Tagg this time through, fresh from his spin and issues at Paddock Hill Bend. He's moving neatly out of the way, and without question now, car number 56 Rob Courtnage has made it almost a quartet for the lead of the race. Still the same order, Ellis from Baxter, then number 48, which is Andy Chittenden, but gaining time on them all of the time. Rob Courtnage heads at the wheel of the number 56 car up towards Paddock Hill Bend, and what does his lap time look like that time through? He is still, a couple of seconds quicker than the cars ahead.
So it is a lot to play for. 4th, 5th, 6th, all lapping quicker than 1st, 2nd, 3rd. So there is quite a lot to play for here, and where, as you say, it's becoming rapidly a quartet instead of a trio for that lead group. And of course, I think one of the other elements you get with this is that you do have a fitness element to this, because with that level of downforce taking these corners, especially the very rapid ones in the countryside on the GP circuit here at Brands Hatch, is that they will suddenly feel the effects of taking those corners quite so quickly as we see them coming down towards us at Hawthorns, and it does look like they're line astern pretty much. Certainly the top 3 look like they're line astern as they went through the cameras there. I'm certain it was 1, 2, 3 rather than 2, 3, 4, but I think they're going to come back into our sight absolutely joined together.
And we'll wait and see when they reappear back into sight. We'll catch them on the cameras that show us Sheen Curve and the approach towards Stirling's. There they go, and it's still sort of 3 for the lead, and Rob Courtnidge just that little bit further away in 4th place. He's not fully latched himself onto the coattails of the trio that lie ahead, but they're about to thread their way up towards the braking area for Clearways Corner, and well, there we go. It is 3, and then a slightly bigger gap back, isn't it? It is still Rob Ellis that leads with 8.5 minutes to go. 7 laps about to be completed. From Richard Baxter in 2nd place, who's now certainly under pressure from the car of Andy Chittenden. The 3rd place car might have an opportunity here on the run up towards Paddock Hill Bend. Andy Chittenden on the ragged edge by the look of things, and the braking. You can see the tail end of the car moving around. He got close to Richard Baxter, but didn't really look to try and throw one up the inside, but he's going to have another nibble up at Druids Corner. Couldn't quite work his way through, so now it's sort of allowing our race leader Rob Ellis to pull away, and the trio is no longer for 1st, 2nd and 3rd. The trio really is now for what is 2nd, 3rd and 4th position. Did we also see Jerome de Sadlier gain another place there, the number 3 car?
That was actually number 10 David Thompson and the 51 car of Andrew Ritchie. They were lined up side by side on the grid, and they're back fighting with each other again, even though we know that the number 10 car of Thompson had to start right at the back.
I know at some point over the course of this race I'm going to call Andrew Ritchie either Guy or Shane. I do know that. It will happen.
Lionel.
No, well, we can have that one. I hadn't thought of that one. So Rob Ellis leading, 7 laps completed. Less than 0.6 of a second was the gap between 1st and 2nd. There was then just a 1/4 of a second back between 2nd and 3rd, and 3/4 of a second between what was 3rd and 4th place as they all head down through Hawthorn once more. Still Rob Ellis leading. He's led every single lap so far, but that's not to say he's not been shadowed for all of them as they turn their way for the 8th time through Stirling's and are about to reappear with 7 minutes to go up towards Clearways.
Yeah, I can't help but feel that, to be fair to Rob Ellis, the number 12 car, is that he does look like he is in control of this, is that every time they get back onto the rear of him, he's then able to stretch it back out again as he comes through still in that lead. You see, he's not under extreme pressure, unlike the cars just behind him. It's now, in fact, interestingly, it was the 48 car of Chittenden that was all over 88 Baxter last time round, while suddenly he's now being pressured by Courtnidge in the number 56 car.
And all of this whilst the car in 6th position, car number 3, the pole sitter, Jerome de Sadlier, having to work his way back through, having stalled on the grid and getting away last. He is lapping 3 seconds a lap quicker than some of those ahead. It was a 1 minute 36.1 from him. It was a 1 minute 39.3 from Andy Chittenden in 3rd place, who's under huge pressure again from Rob Courtnidge, who got very close on the run down through Graham Hill Bend, but couldn't quite squeeze his way through.
Yeah, we've got a spinner up at Druids as Mark grabs his binoculars just to have a quick look to see who that was. But Rob Courtnidge got a cracking run through Druids down towards Graham Hill Bend, all over the back of the number 48 car of Andy Chittenden. But he didn't really take that speed to try and dive up a gap or anything. He literally looked like he nearly made contact with the back, so it looked as though he was more trying to keep the momentum going through Graham Hill Bend. Didn't feel it was the right place to make a move. Maybe he's trying to see if he can carry that all the way up onto the long straight out into the country.
The spin was for car number 10, David Thompson, so he has lost a place or so there. I suspect that the number 5 car, Peter Devlin, was able to get himself through and ahead, but I don't think he'll have lost anything other than just one single place, as our race leading pack of cars is about to very shortly head over the start-finish line.
So I think it'd be Ritchie, wouldn't it? Him and Ritchie were fighting hammer and nail, weren't they?
Yeah, here we go, over the start-finish line. Andy Chittenden still under huge pressure from the number 56 car of Rob Courtnidge, who's looking to try and get himself onto the overall podium. They are also now being caught by the next couple of cars that sit directly behind, because car number 22, James Pinkerton, is now being harried along by Jerome Desadlier. Both of those cars posting their individual best laps of the race, but Jerome Desadlier in 6th place, posting the overall fastest lap of the race we've seen so far, 1 minute 35.867. So we've now got 6 cars closing up for the lead, the slowest of which is the race leader, the fastest of which is in 6th.
Fantastic, exactly what we're expecting. He can smell blood now, can't he? He can see that daylight has disappeared. He had so much time that he had to make up, even plenty of considerably slow as he had to get past. Now he's into the heat of the battle, and it looks like there was a challenge there for 3rd, but he decided to bail out on it. So 48 Chittenden still sits there in 3rd, but Rob Courtnidge, number 56, he had a very serious look through the left-hander there of Surtees. Just wasn't quite able to get the noise pedal down enough as they went up the hill and out of our sight. And in fact, I think that's compromised him all the way along that straight now, isn't it?
It's a difficult thing. It's an important corner, Surtees, in reality, because you carry all of that speed out of Surtees along the Pilgrims Drop, down through Hawthorne Hill and through Hawthorne Corner, which itself is a very, very fast right-hander, so it's a key part of the circuit, Surtees. And as we look towards the squabble for the lead of the race, we've certainly got 4 cars together, then a bit of a gap with the number 22 car of James Pinkerton having to stick his elbows out to try and keep the Pole City car of Jerome Desadlier directly behind. And all of this whilst the clock is ticking down. We've now just got 3.5 minutes to go. So here's the 4 for the lead, and this time again Andy Chittenden looks as though he's a little bit slower through Clearways, on towards Clark Curve, the car in 3rd position under pressure from Rob Courtnidge, but Rob is not close enough at all this time up towards Paddock Hill Bend, so the order I'm sure will remain the same, and you can see how little daylight there is between all of the cars inside the top 6, and of course they're now starting to bear down on the next little bit of traffic that they need to deal with as they head up towards Druids.
Well, you could see our pole sitter there, Desadlier, red flag. I was about to say you could see him absolutely washing out as he went through there, and there's a few of them haven't seen the red flag there, and they're just suddenly bunching up. Slow down, guys. Oof. That got a little bit gnarly, and the 48 car definitely hasn't seen it. Andy Chittenden's gone tearing through there. Hopefully he's going to see the red flag soon. He has now, I believe. And yeah, we have no idea what that's for, do we?
No, there's a fair chunk of the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit that we can't see. It was a 20-minute race. The red flag came out with 3 minutes and 7 seconds remaining.
Well, number 10 Thompson's just down in front of us, stopped at the line for the red flag, which means that the car we seem to have lost is number 51, Andrew Ritchie.
Number 12 Rob Ellis was the race leader at the point the red flag came out. 2nd was car number 88 Richard Baxter. 3rd was number 48 Andy Chittenden. 4th was number 56 Rob Courtnidge. 5th was number 22, which is the car of James Pinkerton, and 6th is going to be the number 3 car of Jerome Desadlier.
In 3rd position, number 48 Andy Chittenden. In 2nd position, the number 88 car, Richard Baxter. Well done, Richard. But the victory was taken, number 12, Rob Ellis. Well done. Just wait with that champagne.
I was absolutely on the limit the whole time. As I say, it started to go off. I guess the tyres were getting a bit warm by the end, but yeah, I mean, these guys are just, you know, it's quick. It's a really competitive championship. Everyone's so close to it, so there's no room for mistakes. So you get punished.
I really enjoyed that because I was obviously on the attack with Rob, who was fast, you know, and he had an answer to everything that I tried. I mean, at the end of the race, he started to get a little bit out of shape, and I thought maybe I'd have an opportunity there, but so did I, and that opened the door really for Andy to start catching me up, and he was putting me under pressure, and I was having to defend quite aggressively to keep him behind me. So that was a great race. I really enjoyed that, and I'm so happy with P2. I think that's fair enough. Yeah, loved it.
I got a good start, and I generally do well on the starts, but then towards the end of the race, Jerome sort of was on my tail, so I was having to defend quite a bit. So, but yeah, well done, these two.
Well done, guys, that's the first podium for the Radical SR1 as we run off the podium and hand back to you, Mark.